A decomposed, currently unidentifiable dead body has been found in a car out in LA. And who was this car registered to? A famous singer. We are bringing on Detective Eric Barnes to analyze what may come from this investigation and what we should be looking out for. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, have you heard of David, spells it D4VD, the 20-year-old singer with singles like Runaway, Life's a Dream, Here With Me, Feel It, Romantic Homicide? You go on his YouTube channel, he's got over 2 million subscribers, he has over 3.5 million followers on TikTok, 2 million on Instagram, billions and billions of streams on Spotify. Currently on his Withered World Tour, well, apparently a decomposed body was just found in a Tesla registered in his name out in LA. Yeah, found in an impound lot, to be more specific. This happened out on Monday. Yeah, not the headline I imagined for this week either. But according to a police statement, authorities were called to this tow yard. It's called Hollywood Tow. And they were called by workers at the lot due to what they said was a foul odor coming from a vehicle. So LAPD responded shortly before 12:30 p.m. They opened the front trunk and they find this body wrapped up in a bag. According to NBC, law enforcement indicated that these human remains were not intact and that there has been no positive ID as of yet, that decomposition with this victim is a major issue here. In fact, KTLA had previously reported that the LA County Medical Examiner's Office arrived at the scene and couldn't even determine the gender of this person. However, there has been an update. According to TMZ, just last night, the office listed the victim's gender as female, a height of about 5'1" and 71 pounds. This person has wavy black hair, and she apparently has a tattoo on her right index finger that reads, "Shh." Apparently, she had been wearing a tube top, black leggings, had a metal stud earring, and a metal chain bracelet in the shape of a W. According to TMZ, though, to be more specific here, there is no definitive conclusion as to age, gender, or cause of death. But authorities are treating this as a death investigation. A spokesperson for the singer, whose real name, by the way, is David Anthony Burke, said in a statement to NBC News that he, quote, has been informed about what's happened, and although he is still out on tour, he is fully cooperating with the authorities. Now, we're going to talk about potential legal consequences here, but I have to say the singer may already be feeling the economic consequences. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there's been reporting that his show last night, we'll talk about it, was like packed. There were tons of people out in Minneapolis. But TMZ has reported that the clothing brand Hollister, they're no longer featuring him on their website where he had been modeling different items for them. So apparently he had been removed in the wake of this news. So I want to bring on right now Detective Eric Barnes to try to figure out what is going on. Detective, thanks so much for coming on. So first of all, nothing to indicate that David has been brought in or that he had to cancel his tour. Does that tell you that investigators at this point don't think he's actually involved in connection with this dead body?
Well, Jesse, anytime there is a death investigation, homicide detectives are going to treat it as if it's a murder. That way, you're able to scale down a lot of times and you just treat all your evidence as if there's foul play. And I think on this particular case, one of the things that is intriguing is the fact that there's very little known information. So, as a detective, you have to make sure that you get all your ducks in a row before you start, making moves and strategizing.
But they didn't call him in, right? He's on tour. And he's just performed, I think, at the Fillmore last night in Minneapolis. He was in Chicago over the weekend. He has a stop in Kansas City today. Actually, by the way, his last U.S. date is scheduled for LA on September 20th. And he plans to go to Europe, UK, Ireland for more dates. Are they going to let him go? Are they just waiting for him to come back to LA? If it was urgent enough, wouldn't there be some sort of action?
I think that the kind of at this point in the investigation, the priority is definitely going to be with identifying the decedent. once you get a positive ID on that individual, then you can kind of work up into what may have happened to her. I think you kind of overall you keep an eye on definitely who the registered owner of the vehicle is. You know who he is. You know he's out on tour, and I think the first thing that you check out, probably they've been in contact with him and his team over the phone, just to figure out, what his schedule has been like the last few days, and definitely who was in possession of his vehicle.
Now, we're definitely going to want to stay on top of this story. So let me real quick thank our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, for helping make this happen. This is America's largest injury law firm. This is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys. You know why they're so big? Because they win a lot. They have recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. Think about that. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. Out in Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurance $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not just start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan, they make it so simple. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on screen. So this 2023 Tesla has Texas license plates. It's registered to him. It was impounded after someone reportedly said it was abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. Rolling Stone reporting that this was in the high-end Bird Streets area. And in fact, LAPD Captain Robert Peters said, "We were notified this morning and the car's been here for a couple of days." So reporting indicates, by the way, it could be up to 5 days. If that is true, what does that tell you? I mean, how can someone dispose of a body in this area, wait for the car to be impounded? I mean, that presents its own series of questions, right? Did they mean for it to be impounded? Was it I'm made of questions, but the idea of the body being found in this car that was located in this, substantial neighborhood in LA, so strange.
Yeah, it definitely is. And immediately you have to analyze what happened in that vehicle. You start doing a bunch of physical tests to try to collect any kind of DNA evidence that may be left around, just to see if there was any signs of foul play. But also you have to have in the back of your mind uh, that the car may just be a secondary location, that there may have been a incident leading to the vehicle. And obviously, with a vehicle being mobile, you have a hard time tracking down where this incident initiated at.
How do they process the car? What are they looking for? Fingerprints, DNA, sequence of events? What do they do?
That car right now is the most important piece of evidence that they have. You are going to take your time with before you do anything else. You're going to basically shut everything down to a screeching halt and move at like a turtle's pace, looking for uh, fingerprints, any blood, also any type of DNA that may be left, whether it's hair follicles, maybe fingernails, that kind of thing. Just anything that may give you any idea that there was a struggle that took place, or if someone inadvertently left something behind.
Are they going through surveillance footage right now to see where the car was? I mean, how do they track the movements of the car? Can they?
I haven't had the opportunity or the to work a case involving a Tesla, but from what I know about Teslas are probably the most uh, friendly vehicles for investigators to work with. They store so much data. A car is just as much a computer as it is a vehicle. So there's going to be tons of information stored on the memory board of that car. And also there's cameras also connected to Teslas that have helped other homicide detectives around the country solve cases. So that is going to be very interesting to see what they're able to get from that vehicle. But in terms of a traditional canvas, typically at this point in the investigation, detectives are going basically door to door, block to block, looking for any Ring doorbell camera or businesses that may have video footage to see what was going on with this car in the days leading up to the body being discovered.
And I'll talk more about the body in a minute. I just want to focus on this car for a second. So why theoretically abandon the car and not get rid of it? Why leave it there to be potentially towed? Is it timing issue? Was there a conflict? Maybe it's hard to do. I think about what would it take for somebody to deposit a body in a trunk of a car. who would have the means and the opportunity to do that. But then I also think, why leave it there for it to potentially be impounded and be processed?
With the information that's just known, which is very bare bones at this point, the seating that they found inside this vehicle appeared to be a very small individual. 70 pounds is not very heavy at all. So you're looking at possibly one person that could be capable of moving the body and placing it inside the trunk. And also you have the aspect of the plastic bag. If you see someone carrying a trash bag out the middle of the night, it's not really going to raise any eyebrows. And I think that it's one of those things that when think crimes often happen out of spur of the moment. And so you don't have time to plan things out from a criminal aspect. When it hits the fan, it hits the fan. And you're kind of forced at that moment to come up with the best strategy possible. And sometimes that best strategy possible leaves you with a moment of, I don't know what to do at this point. And I think that's what happened with this vehicle. There's while I figure out what I need to do with it, the best course of action could be just to leave it in the trunk of this car.
Yeah, and we're still trying to piece together what's going on here. By the way, I mean, you got to call out those workers who smelled something. And by the way, I hate to ask this, but I think it's important. Is that smell distinct? The smell of a dead body?
Yes, it is. Once you've smelled it one time, you know exactly what it is the next time you smell it.
And I'm not saying they even knew that, but they smelled something and thought enough that there's a problem here. Let's go talk about this victim. Oh, by the way, going back to the idea, before we get to the idea of the victim, if the car, this state of decomposition, in this car for 5 days, that gives a timeline too, right? I mean, that can tell something about the sequence of events.
Yes, there's a lot of factors that play into decomposition. The weather, the level of humidity, obviously the fact that the time of the year that it is. The weather can actually speed up decomposition. And so, although there are some times where it can help you, there's a lot of different factors that can weigh into that analysis.
And just to be clear, when you're hearing reporting that the body was not intact, does that mean it was mutilated? Does that mean it was severed in some way, chopped up?
It gives the indication that it's been tampered with in one way or another. I when I heard that, the first thing I thought was they didn't necessarily just go to that it had been mutilated, but also uh, I've been on crime scenes where advanced levels of decomposition can also lead to the body coming apart. So that's also a theory that could come into play.
Let's talk about the ID of this victim. I mentioned it before. To me, the tattoo and the jewelry are very, very important. What do investigators do with that to try to figure out who this person is? I mean, obviously it's being reported, so perhaps somebody who knows somebody that has that kind of tattoo and coupled with that jewelry will come forward. But beyond that, what do investigators do?
Definitely. At this point in time, the media is going to be your best friend with getting your victim identified. I think the tattoo is very distinct. So if there's people that are aware of someone that has a tattoo like that, it is going to stand out, and hopefully they get in contact with the LA Police Department. Also, I think that from a detective standpoint, while you're waiting on media to potentially make the connection, you're just scanning through your databases, looking for any police reports or anything that may document someone with that kind of tattoo.
I mean, and you don't even know if that person got the tattoo in LA, but do you go to tattoo parlors and say, have you ever done a tattoo like this? Also, the jewelry, I don't know where it was purchased. I mean, is that anything that they go to the suppliers and try to see where any of that where this person might have purchased it? I mean, it might seems like a daunting, impossible task because you just don't know.
Right. At this point, you don't take anything off the table. I think that is the priority for these investigators, is to get this young lady identified, or this to be able to determine who she is. And once you can figure out who she is, then you can kind of figure out where she was at and she was supposed to be around. And I think that's going to open up a bunch more answers and possibilities for your investigators.
Does fingerprints or DNA play a role in identifying a decomposed victim?
They do. At this point in the investigation, I think just depending on the level of um, decomposition, you have to be very mindful that fingerprints, they can also go away. So they also weigh very heavily if there's a high level of decomposition, and they'll focus on dental records. Hopefully, there'll be something that they can reach into, that if the hands are decomposed, that the dental should be intact, and hopefully that'll help them lead them in the right direction.
Doesn't it also tell you something, if this reporting is true, that wearing these clothes, wearing this jewelry, having this identifier on the finger, that, and I hate to say this, but a professional killer would not have left those identifying marks, let alone leave a dead body in a car to be found. But doesn't that tell you something about who may have done this?
As you stated, I think there are just a lot of things that, if someone had the time to think through circumstances and plan it out a little better, if that was the case with this, that they wouldn't make these mistakes. Leaving a car abandoned on the street, especially in an area that is heavily populated, has towaway zones, that car is gonna be discovered at a certain amount of time. And also, with people that may be walking dogs and going out exercising, the smell is going to give away the fact that there's a body hidden inside this vehicle. So I think there's a lot of rush and judgment in making decisions on this situation.
And not to play conspiracy theory, but there's always a possibility here, right? That perhaps that person who did this, right, wanted the body to be found. If David has nothing to do with this, there is always a possibility that the body was placed in his car. He didn't know who was driving it. Someone had access to the car. I wonder if those are questions that he's cooperating with law enforcement, right? Who had access to the car? Do you know anybody who drove it? And whether or not there is a situation where they wanted to throw suspicion on him. Not playing conspiracy theory, but again, I'm trying to balance all this. He's cooperating. He's still on tour. They may not believe he's involved. Makes it seem like somebody else potentially was trying to frame him or cast suspicion. Am I thinking about this the right way?
100%. Like I think what makes a successful investigation and a successful investigator is that you don't take anything off the table until you're able to rule it out. So they have their hands full, definitely, with looking at every single possibility in this case. I think also, if I'm David or I'm his spokesperson, I'm going to want to give the police as much cooperation as possible, because the last thing I want to do is for him to take a hit in the social realm and start to lose fans because of any kind of a suspicion that's unwarranted.
By the way, from a legal point of view, I've seen cases before where bodies are found, and if they're in such a state of decomposition or the body is severed in such a way, it can be difficult to determine cause of death or manner of death. And you might have a situation where somebody is charged with tampering with evidence or disposing of a body, but they might not necessarily be charged with murder. There could be other circumstances that would support it, but if you don't have those answers from the body itself, you could have somebody who overdosed, you could have somebody who slipped and fell, you could have somebody, a number of different scenarios, and then someone panics and then does something to the body. I mean, you just don't know. Self-defense. So if the body is so decomposed, that could be a problem for potential prosecution, right?
Yes, I think that it definitely presents some challenges, because you don't have the ready available testing that is normally done when you have a fresh scene or a fresh victim. I also think that what you brought up was very interesting in terms of overdose. I've worked several overdose scenes where um, everybody's partying at night. People go to bed, kind of crash, and when they wake up, someone is has passed away. And so the last thing they want to do is call the police and say, "Hey, we've been using drugs." So you have a cleanup process that takes place, and so that as well, I think, could be a very viable situation here, just depending on what information comes out.
Yeah, and I'm being clear. I'm speculating. I don't know. I'm just trying to work through different scenarios here as we try to make sense of this in real time. Do you think they're looking into David, investigators? Are they following him? Obviously, if they want to track communications, I imagine they would need a warrant. But do you think they're keeping a very careful eye on him and he doesn't know it?
I think at this point, I think obviously the fact that this happened that a body was found inside his vehicle. I don't think that there's any secret at this point to him that the police are investigating him at some level. And um, I think the way that he can kind of show his lack of involvement is just being fully cooperative with law enforcement, which it appears that there is some level of cooperation. But I think at this point, the primary focus of those investigators is just identifying the victim. You kind of have to work off of the facts of where your victim was at, what they were doing, and who were the last people that were with her. And I think that kind of will keep you from going down so many rabbit trails.
It's a really, really distressing case, and it's evolving very rapidly. So hopefully they make an ID. Hopefully we get some answers, and we will keep a careful eye on it. Detective Eric Barnes, thank you so much for taking the time. It was good to see you.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, everybody, that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. You can follow me on Instagram or X. I'll catch you next time.